The Rangers' clutch offense is back. Texas came back in a 8-3 win over the Tigers and looked like their old self. Plus, Bruce Bochy is really pushing the right buttons. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the founder and host for all 5 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. Today is Wednesday, June 28th. Your Rangers are 48-31, alone atop the AL West with a 5-game lead over those pesky Angels. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers, and the best way you can help grow the show is to subscribe on YouTube and comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into today's episode, this episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Now, the Rangers had an epic comeback win, and their clutch offense looked like it was back to being exactly what we have known it is all season long. It had been a little bit of a rough stretch the last, half month, couple of weeks, basically since that series against the Rays. Really since that series-ending loss to the Cardinals that could have been a sweep and wasn't, with the Rangers, B-ist of B-team lineups out there. This Rangers offense hasn't quite been the lethal killers of Murderers Row that they had been for the entire start of the season. But last night, this offense really looked like their old self, and especially Ezequiel Duran. I mean, he just had an absolutely incredible game. Went 2 for 4 with the pair of strikeouts and a go-ahead home run in what was maybe the most impressive at-bat I've seen from any Ranger this season. He just kept fouling off pitch after pitch after pitch after pitch. The Rangers took a 3-2 lead after scoring 3 runs in the bottom of the 6th inning. That's just what this Rangers offense does. They just have big old innings, and they scored 3 in the 6th and then 5 in the 8th inning. Josh Sborz allowed a home run. His scoreless streak is done. He allowed the game-tying home run in the top of the 8th inning. He struck out 5 of the 7 batters that he faced. One of them he got to fly out. One of them got him for a home run. That was by Spencer Torkelson, and that tied the game at 3 apiece. Then Ezequiel Duran, after Josh Jung came in and he had a clutch RBI base hit as a pinch hitter, and a really, really good at-bat for him. Not the hardest hit ball of his entire life, but a really solid at-bat in a key situation that tied the game up in the 6th inning. Then he had another solid at-bat and got rung up again on a pitch outside the strike zone. I mean, Josh Jung is just getting really, really squeezed outside of the strike zone, getting rung up on pitches. There was I believe a 10-pitch at-bat that he had in Monday's game, where he got rung up on a pitch that was outside the strike zone. This was a 7-pitch at bat. This time it was inside to him, as opposed to the other one, which was a cutter off the plate and away. And it was frustrating. And he continues to swing a hot bat, and giving him a day off, I think, was the right move by Bruce Bochy. He and Ezequiel Duran, or he and Leody Taveras, both got the day off. They were combined 0 for 8 with 7 strikeouts in the game before. Just giving them a day off in this really long stretch. Like I said a million times, it's 30 games in 31 days heading in the All-Star break. And Josh Jung, he hasn't played a full entire season. Leody Taveras has. And we saw a tail off from Leody Taveras at the end of last year. I don't think he's going to tail off like that by any means. I still think he is going to continue a similar level of production throughout the season. But Jung, it's been a struggle because he's had this injuries, and he hasn't had a full season of pro ball, even going back to college. I mean, those college seasons are pretty short, so giving him the occasional day off, I think is going to happen a little bit more in the second half. But he came up big, and Ezequiel Duran saw that pitch that rung up Josh Jung and thought, okay, well that's not going to happen to me. And he battled a 12-pitch at bat, fouling off pitch after pitch after pitch. He was not going to take a walk. Well, that's also because that's just kind of not Ezequiel Duran's MO. And he battled until he got himself a hanging breaking ball that he deposited 431 feet away for the go-ahead home run, his 10th of the season. Ezequiel Duran, have yourself a freaking day. He also had a infield hit that was absolutely stung that he used his speed to run out and extend the inning in the 6th inning. That kept it going for Josh Jung, or for the go-ahead RBI from Leody Taveras, who came in and pinch hit for Josh Smith, who, funny enough, his first game playing in, I don't know, maybe a week, he's playing at third base, and the ball found him 2 different times in the first inning, which just feels like it kind of happens every time you're in a new position. The ball just kind of finds you. But he did an all right job defensively, but Bruce Bochy knew it's time for Leody Taveras. This is a big spot, and he could give us a base knock that would give us the lead, and he did. And that's exactly what Leody Taveras did. Ezequiel Duran extending that inning made it possible for Bruce Bochy to put Leody Taveras in the right spot to come up with that big base knock and give the Rangers a lead. It wouldn't hold, but Ezequiel Duran is just such an exceptional player. I mean, I've talked about him a million times. He's got an even 900 OPS this year. He got exactly as many plate appearances last year as he does this year at 220. And the differences are astounding. The amount that he has improved, the amount of positions that he has played. He played a little bit of third base and second base last year, primarily third base. And last year he had a slash line of 236, 277, and 365, a 643 OPS, 5 home runs, 10 doubles. Decent, solid stuff in 220 plate appearances this year, and the exact same number. He is hitting 319 with an on-base of 359, slugging 541 for an even 900 OPS. A 900 OPS. That is 13th in Major League Baseball. 13th among all players with at least 220 plate appearances, which also is exactly how much Corey Seager has. You know the players who have a better OPS than Ezequiel Duran this year? We'll start with Shohei Ohtani, Corey Seager, Ronald Acuna Jr., Yordan Alvarez, Luis Arias, Freddie Freeman, Corbin Carroll, Sean Murphy, Juan Soto, Yandy Diaz, Will Smith, and Ketel Marte. That's it. Those are the only players in Major League Baseball with a higher OPS than Ezequiel Duran, a guy who didn't even make the opening day, lineup, which again surprised me, and I think was probably a mistake, and I think the Rangers are now realizing that was a mistake. But ever since the Corey Seager injury, I mean, not that a Corey Seager injury was ever a good thing, but the one good thing that it did do is make the Rangers realize, oh, this Ezequiel Duran guy, he needs to play every freaking day because he's absolutely astounding. He is just smacking the baseballs. Expected slugging percentage, expected batting average are both in the top 8% of baseball. He's incredibly fast. He's in the top 10% of the fastest players in Major League Baseball. Oh, and his arm strength? Yeah, it's in the 100th percentile. He has the strongest arm in all of baseball this year. Barrel rate in the top 20%, expected WOBA in the top 15% of baseball, hard hit rate in the top 22% of baseball. Like, he's just stinging the baseball. Oh, and his outs above average is in the 79th percentile, and he's played shortstop, third base, second base, left field, right field, first base. He's played literally everywhere besides pitcher, catcher, and center field, and I'm pretty sure that he could play a half-decent center field. I wouldn't put him out there too much right now because the Rangers do have Leody Taveras and Travis Jankowski, and I'd probably also trust Adolis Garcia out there in center field before I'd trust Zeke because his routes have been a little bit erratic, but he's got the athleticism, he's got the speed, he's got literally everything you could want in a baseball player, and I'm seeing why Bruce Bochy absolutely loves this guy so much. He can hit anywhere in the lineup, he can do damage, he doesn't walk at a great rate, 4th percentile in walk rate, 5th percentile in chase rate, but he doesn't strike out at an extreme rate, 34th percentile in terms of his strikeout rate. So he is expanding the zone, but he can definitely get to a bunch of different pitches, and when he does not make soft contact. He makes loud contact everywhere. That's why his batting average is so freaking high. If he can get that walk rate up just a little bit, then man, the sky is the limit for this kid. Doesn't have a whole lot of opposite field power, which is why I still think that Josh Jung's offensive ceiling is a little bit higher than him. And I do think that there is probably some kind of regression offensively coming for Ezequiel Duran, but it's not happening right now because he has been absolutely incredible. Coming up, we're going to look at a few of the other key players in this one and what about this team made me feel really confident the offense is looking back like its old self, and a little bit about Martin Perez. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying your tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets to all the sports, music, comedy, theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun you're going to have. Forget all the planning months in advance. Game Time has tickets on deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price, and if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Get images of your seats before you buy so you know exactly where you're supposed to be, what you look like when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're all set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Shout out to the Everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Thursday's show tomorrow, I'll be recording with Lindsey Crosby of Locked On MLB Prospects to talk about the draft and the Rangers farm system in general. The Rangers take on the Tigers this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, Martin Perez had yet another really solid start, and I have been so impressed with him, and I have been on the pro Martin Perez train for a long time. He got into a little bit of trouble in the second inning, allowing 4 straight singles, and then the Rangers didn't allow any single base runner until that home run by Spencer Torkelson, and that was the only other base runner that the Rangers allowed after this one. Just one base runner, granted it was a solo shot, from the 3rd through the 9th inning. That is incredibly impressive work, and another impressive start for Martin Perez at home. He went 6 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, both of which were earned, 2 walks to 4 strikeouts. His ERA is down to 4.28 on the season, and at home he has been exceptional. His home road splits are pretty drastic. He's got a 1.91 ERA at home versus an ERA just a little around 5.98 in 10 starts on the road. So maybe just flip your rotation a little bit so that Martin Perez is pitching more often at home, and maybe you'll get a little bit better results. But I've been saying this about Martin Perez, that half of his starts have been quality starts. Of the 16 starts that he's had, half of them have been of the quality variety. And what he does, what that provides you value, is that he gives you innings. I mean, he's thrown 16 starts so far this season, 90 and a third innings. That is second on the team, and he has been just exceptionally consistent. He gives you 6, 7 innings, and then occasionally he'll have more blow-up starts this year than he did last year. I don't think he's going to get to 200 innings unless he really picks up his pace and continues to have starts like this, and have most of his starts be at home where he can go 6 or 7 innings and allow just 1 or 2 runs. That he's done most of his starts at home. But again, he is your number 3 starter in your rotation. He was planned to be your number 4 starter in your rotation. He's got a 4.28 ERA on the season in 90 innings, and he's been fine. He's been solid. He's got twice as many strikeouts as he does walks. He is not allowing a lot of home runs, just 1.3 per 9, which is up from the 0.5 that he had last year. That's where a decent amount of this regression has come from. He's done well. He's got an ERA plus of 100, exactly league average. That's your number 3 starter, giving you about 5 to 6 to sometimes 7 innings per start, and league average ERA, with an amazing offense and a much improved bullpen over the last couple of weeks. I know Josh Sborz did end his scoreless streak. That is the only run that he has allowed in the month of June, because Josh Sborz has been absolutely incredible. And Grant Anderson able to come in and pitch basically an inning of mop-up relief with a 5-run lead in the top of the 9th inning. But Martin Perez is a solid starter. He is the kind of guy that you want. I know he's making $19.6 million this year, and that's probably it's definitely overpaying for what he is. And you know what? That's fine. It is, first off, it's not your money, and quit talking about these players like you're the one who's paying the millions of dollars, unless you are the Rangers owner listening to this podcast, in which case that is your prerogative to complain about that. But you don't listen to podcasts if you're Ray Davis, so you're not Ray Davis, and stop worrying about the money. Also, when the Rangers signed him, he was the only guy who the Rangers had signed at that point. They could not afford to lose him for nothing. He is a great guy in the clubhouse. He is such a mentor to all these young players, a bridge, a veteran leader, which does have a lot of value. And he is beloved in the clubhouse. He is just such a huge part of this team's team chemistry. I mean, a lot of the Rangers stars aren't necessarily the biggest, most boisterous personalities in Corey Seager or Marcus Semien. But Martin Perez has been around a long time, and if you'll notice who's doing the dumping of the water cooler on the post-game interviews, almost every time it's Martin Perez. He's got a big old smile on his face, and he is just always doing his best to include everybody and just bringing smiles to people's faces around the clubhouse. That has a lot of value, and he's also a pretty solid pitcher. He's not just a good vibes guy. He's not just a Brad Miller who is there simply for the vibes. He is putting up a decent season, at least being an average starting pitcher, and the Rangers haven't had a whole lot of those over the last couple of years. He provided them a lot of value last year, and saving them from having to do a little bit more damage of calling up prospects before they're ready. They still had to do a decent amount of that last year, and him just eating those innings, 190 something of them last year, and then on pace to go about 180 innings this year. That has a lot of value, saving the bullpen from having to throw a bunch of innings. I mean, you have guys like Andrew Heaney, who doesn't always go super deep into games, does provide some value. It has also been a solid part of this rotation. Not spectacular, but when you have 3 starting pitchers and ERA under 3, and you could have 4 if not for Jacob deGrom, RIP in pieces. But still, Martin Perez is a guy who I think gets a lot more hate than he deserves, and his value to this team is important, and I think it often gets very much overlooked, and I don't think that the Rangers fans should overlook it. I know the stuff's not flashy. I know that he's not going to have, a 8-inning, 15 strikeout game. He's just not. It's not him. And that's fine. You don't need every pitcher to be Jacob deGrom. You don't need every pitcher to be Nathan Eovaldi. You need a deep rotation full of guys who can go out and get you 6 innings, keep your team in a ballgame, especially when you got an offense that is this freaking good and this freaking stacked. And last night, I really started to see the old offense. And the thing that really encouraged me that this offense was back to their old ways was not just that Ezequiel Duran had that incredible at-bat to get the go-ahead home run that he absolutely obliterated, but the Rangers were not content with just that. They were not content with 2 outs to just sit back and say, 1-run lead is good enough. We can just bring in Will Smith and everything will be hunky-dory. No, Leody Taveras grounded out immediately after him. He hit that ball 101 miles an hour off the bat. Then Marcus Semien dumped a single into the outfield. Corey Seager smashed double 100.9 miles an hour off the bat. Nathaniel Lowe had the hardest hit ball of the night, which was just a single at 109 miles an hour off the bat. Then Adolis Garcia comes up and absolutely obliterates, tomahawks a baseball at the top of the zone to give the Rangers their 5-run cushion, 105.8 miles an hour off the bat, 419 feet to dead center field. He absolutely crushed that freaking baseball and was not content to just, bloop a little single here or there, or just to go meekly and let the Rangers have just a 3-run lead at that point. He's like, no, I want to crush this baseball. I'm going to crush this baseball. And he continued to do so as a huge part of this Rangers lineup. I have been so encouraged by them breaking out of this funk. I mean, it hasn't been that bad of a funk. It's just been a couple of games here and there. They just couldn't quite get enough clutch hits. They went 3 for 10 with runners in scoring position in this game, a much better number than they had done in years past. They also left 10 runners on base. It's fine. It happens. But this offense is not going to be held down for long. They're not going to have a whole lot of slumps. And them figuring it out before they face this Astros team, which is most definitely scuffling, that is a huge, huge sign for this team. I knew that they were going to go through some slumps eventually, but you just got to figure it out against this Tigers team. That's why I was so frustrated with Monday night, is because you got to figure out this offensive slump before the Astros come to town. This is a huge, huge, huge 4-game series, and the Rangers just cannot afford to not take full advantage of that series and beat down those Astros while they are broken. But coming up, we're going to look a little bit more into the top of the order, finally starting to figure some things out, and some guys who had been slumping, giving me some real encouragement, especially Nathaniel Lowe and Adolis Garcia. But first, this word from our sponsors. Shout out to the everydayers for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On Friday show, I'll be talking about the farm system in general. The Rangers take on the Tigers this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, the top of the Rangers order has been, fine, solid, mostly streaky in the top 4 of the order. There's not been a real time where multiple of those guys have been going at the same time. I mean, there was a time where Marcus Semien and Adolis Garcia were going at the same time, but having all 4 of your top 4 in your order going at the same time offensively on a hot streak, that is just a recipe for absolute murder ball. And as of late, that's about where the Rangers are. Marcus Semien in his last 7 games has really started to figure things out. He's got a 4-game multi-hit streak going, 4 straight games where he has had at least 2 hits. He nearly had a second leadoff homer. This was about 5 feet away from leading off back-to-back games with a home run. This one died on the warning track, even though it was over 100 miles an hour off the bat. Still, in his last 7 games, Marcus Semien is hitting .333 with a .371 on base and slugging .455, 1 home run, a pair of walks to 4 strikeouts, and only 1 driven in, which is kind of surprising given that he has had so many multi-hit games. There's been a couple of off days from Leody Taveras at the bottom of the lineup, which I think is also why Bruce Bochy gave him at least that half day off. But I'm also starting to see a little bit more from Nathaniel Lowe, who has been an absolute on-base machine. He's got a .451 on-base percentage in his last 15 games. For the season, it is up to .374. He's got a 13-game on-base streak, and in the month of June, there's only been 1 game where he didn't reach base at least one time. That was June 12th against the Angels, I should say. An 0 for 6 day, I believe. Not a great day for him offensively. But still, he has been incredibly consistent for the Rangers in that 3 spot in the order. I don't think that taking him out of that 3 spot is a great idea. He isn't hitting amazingly against left-handed hitters or against left-handed pitchers this year. He isn't doing the kind of, power, the slugging damage that he did last year. He had reverse splits of a 900 OPS against lefties and a little bit lower against righties, but it's still, he's still hitting lefties fairly well, and he's doing so consistently. And the thing that I like about him in the 3 spot in the order is that he keeps that lineup moving. He has a really, really high on-base percentage. Him and Corey Seager, both of them keep that lineup moving to Adolis Garcia, a guy who is doing a lot of damage right now. In his last 7 games, he has been on fire. He's got 4 home runs in his last 7 games, and in the previous 30, he's only got 5, so only 1 in the previous 15 before his last, or I guess the last 29, or whatever the math is, 23 games before that. You do the math. I'm not a math guy. He's got an on base of 313, so sacrificing a little bit of that on base for the power, but he is getting better pitches to hit. He is doing extreme damage. He's got 19 home runs on the season to retake that lead in dramatic fashion from Josh Jung, who finally caught up to him and passed him about a couple weeks ago, and then ever since, Adolis Garcia has just been on a massive streak. But seeing Adolis Garcia doing what he's doing, damage to baseballs, his walk rate in the top 60% of baseball. I mean, the barrel rate in the top 7% of baseball. I mean, his average exit velocity, top 11% of baseball. His arm strength is still incredible, outs above average, still in the top half. Outfielder jump in the top 16% of baseball. He is still doing everything you think of as Adolis Garcia, except for that sprint speed. I'm a little curious why that sprint speed is down so much. I don't think he's just turned 30 and immediately became incredibly slow. He's in the 44th percentile of sprint speed, whereas in 2021 he was in the 83rd percentile of sprint speed. So just a little confused by that. I think it's not anything to be, too terribly worried about. He's been playing a lot more games this year. He has been hitting cleanup for the Rangers and driving in those runs in bunches, especially when you tomahawk missiles to center field for 2-run bombs to cap the scoring on this on this massive comeback win for the Rangers. But I've just been really encouraged by this offense. I know it's been a little bit of a rough stretch, but having Bruce Bochy in charge really kind of pushing the right buttons of giving a half day off to Josh Jung and Leody Taveras, and then sensing the opportunity in those big moments where, Travis Jankowski had a solid game. He went 0 for 0 with 2 walks before Josh Jung came in that clutch situation. It was against lefties, so Josh Jung is crushing lefties, and so Bruce Bochy thought, all right, this is the time, this is the game where Josh Jung could make an impact, and he has been in a little bit of a rough way, but I trust that he can do what he's doing. And then Leody Taveras to come in halfway through this game, or I guess in the 6th inning. Both these guys came in the 6th inning and had more than a half day, 2/3 of a day off, and come in and come up clutch. Like, just having him in charge. I know there's been some questionable decisions as of late. I still don't understand what the Rangers are doing with Cody Bradford, why they threw him in that Monday night game unless they had literally no other options. I still don't get it. There's still no starter announced for Thursday, so maybe there's a chance that Cody Bradford pitches a couple innings on Thursday, or I don't even know what they're doing, and they pushed John Gray back. I really don't know. I really think that would have been the prudent move. They could have thrown anybody for those 2/3 of an inning on Monday. I know it feels hyperbolic and a little dramatic to freak out about one guy on the roster, not having a defined role and really kind of being wasted. But that's kind of where the Rangers are, is they've got so many guys on this roster that are all contributing in their own ways and coming up big in different moments. Even Josh Smith, who doesn't play a whole lot, probably plays about the least of, outside of Sam Huff. I really also don't know what the heck they're doing with Sam Huff either. But outside of that, Josh Smith still coming up in big situations. Huff, if the Rangers needed him for whatever they need him for, whatever he's up here for, I'm sure he would be able to step into that role. I still would like to see him getting a lot more at-bats and seasoning in AAA. I still think that bat needs a little bit more, I don't know, whatever, at-bats against quality players, and needs to do so every day. And him just being on the Major League roster in kind of an idle role confuses me. But Bruce Bochy has been there. He has done that. It's taken a little while for him to figure out who can thrive in what situations in the bullpen, but he's managed that bullpen mostly very, very well, and the Rangers have a decent stable of guys. And when things were looking like they were threatening to fall off the rails in May, and even with the bullpen that was like just absolute trash in May, the Rangers still had the best record in baseball in all of May, because just when one thing goes wrong, another thing goes right for this Rangers team to pick it up and take advantage. And right now things are not going well for the others in the division. The Angels are 5-5 in their last 10 games. The Rangers are 6-4. Not great, but still not terrible. And Houston is 3-7 in their last 10. The Rangers continue to gain ground on that Astros team, and their chances to make the playoffs just keep getting better and better and better. Right now, according to Baseball Reference, they have a 96.8% chance to make the postseason and a 15.8% chance to win the World Series. And of course, Fangraphs is still much lower on this Rangers team than they are on even the Dodgers, who are in 3rd place in their own division. And I don't see a whole lot of reinforcements coming for the Dodgers, as opposed to the Rangers, who have just continued to be solid all year long. The Rangers have an 81.6% chance to make the playoffs, according to Fangraphs. That is best in the division. Second best is the Astros at 51% chance to make the playoffs. So things are going well for the Rangers. It has been a little bit of a skid, but it's a 182 game season, or 162 game season combined. Basketball and the NHL and NBA is 82 with 162. But no, it's a 162 game season. The Rangers are nearly halfway through it. We have a good idea of what this team is. We have a good idea that these young stars are actual stars in Ezequiel Duran and Josh Jung and Leody Taveras. And, well, even though he's not quite young, Jonah Heim. And the Rangers might have 6 or 7 all-stars on this team that are absolutely deserving, because they have been one of the best teams in all of baseball. It is easy to freak out and overreact to a 3-game losing streak and all of those games that were absolutely winnable, and all of the games on the road trip that were absolutely winnable that the Rangers didn't lose, or that the Rangers didn't win. But still, this is a good team in a good place. Things are clicking, and even in the rough stretches, the Rangers have the right guy at the helm to push the right buttons and get this team and ship righted by the time they get to the playoffs, where they could be going on a very, very deep run. That's going to do it for today's show. Like I've said a couple of times, I'll be back with Lindsey Crosby tomorrow morning to talk about the draft and Rangers prospects in general. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy first place Texas Rangers baseball.